Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are taking on a topic that really sits at the absolute core of medical professionalism.
It does. It's all about what happens when things go wrong.
Exactly. It dictates how safe a patient is, how trustworthy a doctor is, and whether a system can actually learn from its mistakes. We're diving into the duty of candor.
And this is vital stuff, not just for doctors in training, but for anyone with serious responsibility. We've basically pulled together the key principles that guide you through those crisis moments.
Right. Our mission here is to give you that non-negotiable framework for handling clinical errors. So let's just jump straight in.
Let's do it.
Okay, imagine this. You've prescribed a drug. You meant to give 5 milligrams, but there's a mix-up. The patient gets 50, 10 times the dose.
A classic scenario.
Thankfully, they're stable for now, but the error is there. It's real. The situation is tense. What is your absolute non-negotiable first action?
Okay, the central truth here, the exam mindset, is all about speed and honesty. You have to be candid and you have to be fast. That means you tell the patient what happened, you give a sincere apology, explain the facts as you know them, and then outline the next steps. And of course, record everything.
That sets the tone perfectly.
Yeah.
This isn't just about ticking boxes on a checklist, is it?
Not at all.
It's directly tied to your GMC duties, to patient trust, and to this huge organizational push for improvement, which in the UK is all under the Patient Safety Incident Response Framework, or PSIRF.
Precisely. You're juggling two things: your personal, professional duty, and the need for the whole institution to learn.
And if you hold back because you're scared or embarrassed,
Then two things break immediately: the patient's trust in you and the system's chance to stop it from happening to someone else tomorrow. Candor is the bedrock. It really is.
okay, let's unpack that bedrock then.
Yeah.
When we talk about the professional duty of candor, what are the GMC and, say, the NMC actually requiring from us? What are the core bits?
It's about being open and honest when something goes wrong, or even if it just could have caused harm. There are basically 5 parts. You must tell the person. You must offer a sincere apology. You offer support or a remedy. You share the known facts. And that's a really critical point.
Known facts, not speculation.
Exactly. No blame, no guessing. And finally, you have to explain what's going to happen next for their care and for the investigation.
I'm going to pause on the apology because I think that's where the panic can really set in.
It is.
That fear that if you say, I'm sorry, you're admitting liability and your career is over. Is that a real fear?
It's a completely understandable one, a very human fear rooted in, legal anxiety. But the guidelines are incredibly clear on this.
And what do they say?
Bodies like NHS Resolution stated explicitly, apologizing is the right thing to do, professionally and ethically, and crucially, it is not an automatic admission of liability.
So you're apologizing for the event, not for being negligent.
You're apologizing for the event happening and for the distress it's caused. The guidance really separates that ethical need to show regret from the whole legal process.
That's a huge reassurance.
Yeah.
So let's get the structure right. Adrenaline's high, you need a framework. What is the absolute foundational first step before anything else?
Patient. It always starts and ends with the patient. So, step 1, non-negotiable, immediate patient safety.
Yeah.
You stabilize them, you monitor them, you do whatever it takes to mitigate the harm, give an antidote, call for senior help, whatever it is, safety first.
So we stabilize first, and only when they're safe do we move on to the conversations and the paperwork. What's next after safety?
Immediate escalation. You have to inform your senior, your supervisor, your line manager. That brings in support, expertise, and it gets the organization ready to do its part.
Okay, so safety, then escalate. Let's run through the rest of the sequence because I know the system rewards thinking in this clear, logical way.
Agreed. So step 3 is where the candor really happens. You speak to the patient.
The apology, the facts.
Exactly. The sincere apology, the known facts, again, no speculation, and the plan. Step 4 is all about governance and documentation. You record the conversation and you fill out the internal report.
And that's using the national system for safety events.
That's right, which brings us to LFPSE, learning from patient safety events. That's the system where everything gets logged.
Okay, and the final step.
Step 5 is about learning. You contribute to the review, the investigation under PSIRF, and you make sure the loop is closed with the patient later on.
That's a great 5-step process. But to remember it under pressure, we need some memory aids. I know the source material has a couple of good ones. Let's start with TAPER.
TAPER is perfect. It maps directly onto the actions. T is for tell the patient.
A is for apologize.
P is for plan next steps, E is for escalate and report to your senior and through LFPSE, and R is for record.
Taper. Simple. Tell, apologize, plan, escalate, record.
If you follow taper, you've hit all the high-scoring actions.
And what about the second one, for the content of the apology itself? Real apology.
Right. This helps guide that difficult conversation. R is for regret. You express sorrow that it happened.
E is for explain.
Known facts only. A is for action, what you've done for their safety. And L is for learn your commitment to reviewing what happened.
That framework feels really safe. It stops you from going into blame or speculation.
It does.
I think having the actual words to say is half the battle, though. People freeze. What's a good model phrase to have in your back pocket?
Keep it simple, direct, compassionate. Something like, I am so sorry this has happened. Here is what we know so far, and here's what we're doing right now to keep you safe.
And then you pivot to the next steps.
Straight away. We will be recording this formally and reviewing it through our safety framework, and we promise to share what we learn with you. It shows immediate care and future accountability.
Perfect. Okay, let's talk about the governance layer. This is where my professional duty meets the organization's legal duty. What's CQC Regulation 20?
This is a really key distinction. The GMC duty is professional. CQC Reg 20 is the organizational or statutory duty of Candour.
So it's on the hospital or the trust.
Exactly. The Care Quality Commission, the CQC, legally requires providers to be open about specific notifiable safety incidents.
And a notifiable incident is one that meets a certain harm threshold, right?
Yes, which the provider's own policy will define. And for those, the organization has to provide a written notification, a written apology, and keep detailed records.
So my job as the clinician is to escalate promptly so the organization can meet that legal duty.
You've got it. Your internal report is what allows them to be compliant.
Okay, so let's clarify LFPSE and PSIRF then. We hear these acronyms all the time.
Right. LFPSE, Learning from Patient Safety Events, is the national database. It's the digital ledger where all patient safety events get recorded. Harm, no harm, near misses, everything.
It's the data collection point.
Precisely. And PSIRF, the Patient Safety Incident Response Framework.
That's what we do with it.
That's the process. It's the framework that says how we investigate and learn from what's logged in LFPSE. It's all about moving away from blaming one person.
And looking at the system, how did the system let this happen?
Exactly. And that's so important because when you take away the blame culture, people actually feel safe enough to report things, and only then can you actually prevent them.
That makes perfect sense. So what about near misses? This comes up a lot. If I almost gave the wrong drug, but I caught myself, the patient never knew, do I have to tell them?
The general guidance is that if it had the potential to cause harm or distress, you should be open about it. But regardless of telling the patient, you must report it internally on LFPSE.
Because a near miss today is an actual incident tomorrow.
If the system isn't fixed, yes, absolutely.
Okay, let's pivot to the traps. The things that seem tempting in the moment but will absolutely tank your score and, more importantly, are just wrong. What are the big red flags to avoid?
They all boil down to delaying or avoiding accountability. The first big one is delaying disclosure, saying, oh, I'll wait and see if any harm develops.
Why is that so bad?
It's a huge failure. It risks safety, it delays any investigation, and it just shatters trust.
Another one must be the temptation to just fix it quietly and say nothing, especially if you think you've gotten away with it.
A massive trap. That's a direct breach of your professional duty, and it completely blocks any chance for the system to learn under PSIRF. You can't just silence it.
What about blaming others? The nurse mislabeled it.
Very low scoring. It's unprofessional, it's terrible for team morale, and it undermines your own credibility.
And what's the worst case scenario trap? The one that crosses from bad judgment into serious misconduct.
That's anything to do with the records, concealment, or, even worse, altering the patient notes.
So if a senior says, just, rewrite that entry.
That is the ultimate red flag. Any pressure to edit notes without a proper dated, timed addendum is a breach of probity. You must refuse and you must escalate that concern immediately. That's serious professional misconduct.
That is so clear. Okay, let's bring it back to our opening scenario. 50 milligrams instead of 5. Patient is stable. We've done the immediate safety stuff. Walk us through the high-scoring path one more time.
Okay. Patient is stabilized and monitored. First, you immediately inform your senior. Then, you go to the patient with candor. Sincere apology, known facts, the plan for monitoring. Then you meticulously document the event and your conversation in the notes. And finally, you report it via LFPSE.
And the low-scoring answers are things like saying nothing because there was no harm, or I'll wait for the consultant to get back next week.
Exactly. Timely, honest disclosure always wins.
So we can boil this down to some rapid-fire rules, can't we? If you find a patient is suffering ongoing harm,
Urgent review, monitoring, mitigation, safety first, always. Conversations come after.
if you realize an error from weeks ago was never disclosed,
Breach of candor. Disclose now and document why it was delayed.
and if you're asked to apologize before an investigation is finished.
Yes, you offer a sincere apology for the event and the distress it caused. You share the facts you have now, and you explain the timeline for when the final results will be available.
That is such a practical, structured way to handle a crisis.
It's about upholding your duties while managing the situation.
This has been an incredibly important deep dive. Let's just distill it one last time. 3 essential actions for our listeners to take away.
Okay. Number 1, act fast to make the patient safe. That is always, always your first step.
Number 2, disclose promptly with a sincere apology, share known facts only, and outline the safety plan.
And number 3, escalate through governance, your senior and the LFPSE system, and document everything precisely.
Perfect. And before we go, let's just quickly nail those 4 key acronyms again. Candour is
The professional and statutory duty to be open and honest.
CQC Regulation 20.
The organizational legal duty to notify and apologize in writing for notifiable incidents.
LFPSE
The national system for logging all safety events.
and PSIRF.
The framework for how organizations learn from those events, focusing on the system, not the person.
What a fantastically clear and actionable framework. Thank you so much for walking us through that.
My pleasure. And with all this focus on PSIRF and learning, here's a final thought for you to consider. What institutional barriers, beyond just fear of blame, do you think are stopping reported safety events from actually leading to real preventative change in our healthcare systems?
A great question, moving us from the personal to the institutional. If you found this structured, exam-focused approach helpful, you can find more resources designed to break down tough topics like this at passthemapellerate.com. That closes out our deep dive into the duty of candor.
Until next time.